good to have you. Today's very special guest is Dr. Danny Scahill. Now, Dr. Danny has been in the healing arts for over 2 decades now. He doesn't look old enough and is the author of the book, Total Health Transformation, the proven system to unlock limitless energy, motivation, and health. And he's the creator of the Total Health Transformation, or THT programs. Now, he's been a chiropractor for 14 years now and has looked after thousands of clients in that time. Now, Dr. Danny believes that to be truly healthy, you need to do 3 things: eat, move, and think on purpose. 8 years ago, he set up his coaching and mentoring business, where he works with business owners and entrepreneurs to help them transform their energy and performance so that their health and their business will thrive. His THT programs address 3 key areas: exercise, nutrition, and mindset. Now, Dr. Danny's programs help clients to achieve their health goals. His coaching has a strong grounding in chiropractic health philosophy, which really differentiates him from other health coaches and mentors. I'm really thrilled that he has very kindly agreed to have a chat with me now to share just a bit more about his journey. So Danny, welcome. Good to have you on.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Cool. So for people who don't know who you are, tell us just a little bit more about yourself and about your journey. How did you get to be where you are now?
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's been quite a long and interesting journey. Like if I go back to, I'll do the kind of the bullet point version. So if I go back to when I was like around about 15 or so, I was very, very active. Used to play football a couple of times a day, martial arts almost every day as well, karate and kickboxing. And so because I was so active and still a child, like I didn't really experience much in the way of stress because I was able to burn off all of that energy. So I was doing kickboxing tournaments as a teenager, and I'm only like 5'7" now, but I was about 5 foot nothing at that point. And a lot of the people I was coming up against in kickboxing competitions were much bigger and stronger than me. So in my infinite wisdom as a teenager, I decided I wanted some weights for my birthday, despite my dad saying, "You're too young, wait till you're 18. So I got weights. I got injured because I didn't have a clue what I was doing, lifting weights. Hurt me back, hurt me shoulder, and started to see a physio for probably about a year, actually. I remember my mum had Bupa cover for the whole family. And after a year, it didn't make any difference whatsoever. So then I started to see an osteopath that my mum had started seeing. And that really started to help me. And so at that time, from a very, very young age, I always wanted to be a lawyer. From about the age of 4 or 5, I always wanted to be a lawyer. So I'd already applied by that point now, because I was about 17 or so, applied for university to do law. So I started osteopathic treatment, and it really helped. I thought, you know what? I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I'd like to be an osteopath, because I thought, I looked at what it was doing for me. I could see that they were helping loads of people, and it looked like a lot of fun compared to when I worked in a solicitor's office on a Friday afternoon, and I was bored out of my mind. And I thought, you know what? I'm not doing that for the rest of my life, despite, you know, a lot of people thinking lawyers earn fortunes, which some of them do, a lot of them don't. So I went off to train to be an osteopath rather than doing a law degree. And in the year 2000, both chiropractic professions and osteopathy were getting regulated. So my college was a part-time college. All part-time colleges got shut down. And I was so close to the finish line. I was nearly 4 years into what was either going to be a 4-year or 5-year course. So it got shut down. Then I retrained as a chiropractor, which was an additional 5 years. Got 0 credit for the 4 years of osteopathy, which was quite unfair. And I was a little bit upset for a few days about that, but I got over it quickly. So 9 years training before I adjusted my first ever paying chiropractic client. Now been in the healing arts over 2 decades, and you know, as a chiropractor from day one, really, as a practicing chiropractor, I've done health talks and seminars and workshops, and I quickly realized that I really loved it. And it was then, and it still is to this day, my favorite aspect of being a doctor of chiropractic, being able to educate, inspire, and hopefully help people to make long-term changes in their health. Now, off the back of doing those workshops, and the love of doing the workshops, I thought, you know what, because so many people said to me, Dr. Danny, you've got to get this information out to people. Most people don't know this. So that's where the book Total Health Transformation came from. And thank you. That was the inspiration for the book. And from the book, coaching clients, people were like, can you help me? I need some help with this. You know, eat, move, and think on purpose is my mantra. They're the three parts to that book and the three parts to the system. And I work with business owners and entrepreneurs. And, you know, one of the niches that I specialize in these days is burnout. So that, believe it or not, that was the bullet point short summary. Because it is a long story, but that's the short version of it.
That's the thing. As you get older, your story gets longer.
True that.
So you're mentioning about burnout. What was the trigger for you to focus on burnout and helping other people with it?
Yeah, it was personal experience. You know, I've been a business owner for quite a long time now. I set up my own chiropractic practice in 2015, so I've been running that for 5 years myself, and I've obviously got a great team as well at CCC. Crawley Chiropractic Centre is the name of that place. And the reality is, though, I've been an entrepreneur since I was about 15 or 16. You know, when I was doing my A-levels, some of my mates used to call me Del Boy because I was always coming up with entrepreneurial stuff. And yeah, that was so from a very young age, I got that nickname, and you know, it was a positive nickname. At least that's how I seen it anyway. So I've been an entrepreneur for most of my life, really. And what I've found is so many of the gurus, if you like, out there who are talking about, you know, you've got to hustle, you've got to work like 90 hours a week. And, you know, a lot of people subscribe to that. And you know where that leads? That leads to burnout. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
How do I know? I've been there. I've had it. You know, really, really bad burnout. I think I've had mild burnout many, many times. Bad burnout probably twice at least. And the last time I had it was, interestingly enough, you know, when I finished that book in May 2018, the THT book, and there was a lot going on with my business. And also anyone who's wrote a book, any of your listeners who's wrote a book or written a book, whatever the best terminology is there, you'll know that it's hard. It takes time, and there's a lot of revisions and reviews, and there's a lot of frustration. So I was hustling, I was getting it done, and I got it done, which was, I'm very proud of that. That's the first book. My second book is in process right now. Watch this space. I'm not going to share the title of that one at this point. So yeah, the burnout thing came from experience, which I could go into more detail in if you'd like.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, okay, cool. So after finishing that book, do you know, like, if you've been working on a project and you have to give everything to it, you just leave in sports, they say leave everything on the field or leave everything on the track, as in give it your all. So that's what I did. That's what I've always done. And I was exhausted after it because I'd given everything and I had nothing more to give. So over a period of time, I started to, it was very insidious. I didn't really notice it at first. So I started to, my positive habits, the eating and moving and thinking, they started to wane away, as in kind of drop off, and I'd start exercising less, and I wasn't even realizing it. I started to skip my meditations and you know, not do my daily intentions and my gratitudes and all the positive eating, moving and thinking habits, they started to fall away, and I didn't even realize it. It was very insidious. Over a period of time, my nutrition started to go out the window, which was ironic, really, being the author of the book, THT, talking about exercise, nutrition and mindset. I let a lot of things slip. And before I knew it, about a year had passed, maybe even 18 months. And never in my life before that point had I ever had any issues with weight. I'd put on about 1.5 stone, maybe 2 stone. Now, for me, that was huge because, you know, I've spent probably the first 25 years of my life wanting to get bigger, going to the gym. And then, you know, the irony is when I get to, I was 39, it was just very, very late 30s. And I started to put loads of weight on. And I was like, hang on, what's going on here? This isn't right. And then I started to suffer with anxiety and loads of other things like that. And chronic tiredness started to kick in, which again, the irony was not lost on me, having wrote that book. And yeah, anxiety was kicking in. I was finding that I was starting to have afternoon naps almost every day. You know, I call them power naps, but you know, all these different symptoms just came up on me very insidiously. And then it got to a point where I was started to get lightheaded and just not feeling good. And I was like, what's going on here? But at the same time, I'd be thinking about it as in something needs to change. I've let things go here. And then I was like, okay, I was getting it intellectually, but I wasn't really getting it here because I hadn't actually taken major action to actually change things. So then I remember in 2018, in May, I've just been writing about this in an article and in one of my programs as well. I was up in Liverpool visiting some family and friends. I had a nice weekend. You know, everything was, at that time, my life was all very rushed, rushing to get one place. I would imagine a lot of your listeners, particularly the business owners and the entrepreneurs, would relate to running on adrenaline. Or, you know, an analogy I often use is driving your car with running on fumes. You got no petrol or diesel or whatever fuel in there. You're just running on fumes. So I was doing that for a long time without really realizing it. So then I had a lovely weekend, a busy weekend. So then I drove back down south, and 250-mile journey it was, or it is. And I got about halfway and I started to feel lightheaded and a little bit dizzy. Bearing in mind I'm on a motorway doing about 80 miles an hour.
70.
Yeah, 70 to 80, but it was most likely 80. So within a split second of feeling this lightheadedness and dizziness, I started to pass out. I could feel myself fainting. And I was somehow, by the grace of God, I don't know, somehow I managed to stop myself passing out, slowed the car down, got into the hard shoulder, stopped the car, and was very grateful that what could have happened didn't happen. It doesn't bear thinking about. Yes, I did think about it, obviously, because it just nearly happened. Crashing at 80 miles an hour while you're unconscious at the wheel, that ain't going to end well. So that was a near-death experience for me. And from that point, things got so much worse. There was obviously some trauma related to that incident. So there was a lot of post-traumatic stress stuff going on. There was panic attacks, there was anxiety, and all of these symptoms I mentioned before, all those symptoms, which I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't even realize it until further down the line, actually. So I'm thinking to myself, right, I managed to get home the next day. I pulled over and I stayed in a hotel that night. and then drove back very, very slow the remainder of the journey. Like with my hands glued to the wheel, I was in a state of panic the whole time. It was not a nice situation. And so from that point on, I was like, okay, I've got private medical insurance. I wonder if there's something going on. System, you know, one of my systems, is it my brain? Is it this? Is it the other? Started to really freak out, really. So I went to see a neurologist, had a brain MRI, had all the neurological tests, all clear. The brain, they confirmed I had a brain, and there was no tumors or anything like that, which was a great relief. They didn't know what it was though.
Yeah.
You know, they were like, "There's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. It's just stress." I'm like, okay. So I had a CT of pretty much my whole thorax, checking every organ, every system, all fine. Had all sorts of stuff. You know, everything was like clear, and I was like, okay, that's great. I haven't got a tumor, but there's something not right here. So then I really dive deep into burnout and exhaustion and all this kind of thing, and it became clear to me that I was severely burnt out, and that is what led me through experience of overcoming that and learning how to correct that, and also learning now how to recognize the symptoms in myself, because I run a couple of businesses now, you know, and who knows, maybe there'll be more businesses in the future. So we all need to be very mindful of how we live our lives day to day, because, you know, as a health professional, I let myself slip into bad habits, I would say. But that's what led me into working with people on burnout.
Fantastic. So quite a scary story there, with regards to the motorway incident particularly, and all the worry that occurs after that around the why, particularly as you say, it crept up so insidiously on you. And what I always think about this is it's nowhere near the degree, but you kind of see that in a lot of people who work in the corporate world around Christmas. There's that, they kind of hold it together all the way through the year, through all the stress, and they build, but they keep going on that empty tank. And then as soon as Christmas happens, they get ill because their system's suddenly gone, oh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you mentioned that you managed to get yourself through it. And obviously you have a wealth of information and knowledge from your health background that would help you do that. So how is it that you now help others to do that? What can they do to overcome and avoid burnout that you can help them with?
It's a good question. That, I mean, there's three key areas to look at: how you're eating, how you're moving, and how you're thinking. Like, because if I look at the eating, I stopped, again, I didn't even realize it at the time, but I stopped making my daily smoothies, you know, like green smoothies, stopped making my own soup, stuff like that, because making your own juices and smoothies and soups is a very, very easy way of getting loads of nutrition into you. Super fast food, basically. It's the best kind of fast food, those three things. I stopped doing that. So my nutrition, despite my knowledge, that knowledge just left me for a period of time, in terms of I stopped implementing it. So I let that go big time. And also positive mindset strategies I've always been really, really big into. I've been a student of self and personal development since I was early teens. You know, great book I was given by one of my parents years ago. First ever book I read on personal development at the age of 13. Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. I've still got that book now. The pages are yellow, but it's still got all the different highlighted areas, you know. I let all those positive mindset things go, and that is so easy to happen. You know, it's so easy to allow it to happen because we are surrounded by negativity on this world. You turn the TV on and you see the news. Very rare is it positive. Yeah. If you read the paper, very rare is it positive, and there's a reason for that. negative headlines draw people in, you know, so there's a reason why that is. So one of my suggestions is don't read the papers, don't watch the news. It just causes a stress response in your head and your body. Just makes us stress, makes us fearful. And not that I was watching news or anything like that then, and I still don't. I haven't done for over 10 years. Most of society still do though. So that was something, that is something I would suggest. Knocking that on the head. If you can, go cold turkey. If not, just read gradually and then stop doing it. And people often complain, but I've got to be informed. I need to be informed. And I'm like, no, you don't. So I do. Like, no, you don't. I don't. Do you know why? Because people like you tell me about stuff. You can filter it for me and then you can give it to me. I don't need to read it. I don't need to watch it. And also looking at exercise. Exercise daily. The human body and the mind needs movement. You know, as a chiropractor in workshops and stuff, I'm always talking about movement, nutrition. Have you ever broken down in a car before, Claire?
Yes.
And when you might have had a jump start, or you might have had a bump start. Someone might have pushed the car and you start the car, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have to drive it for a while?
Yeah.
You do, don't you? That's so the alternator can charge the battery, isn't it?
Yeah.
The exact same philosophy and principle is required in the human brain. Movement is an essential nutrient to your brain. It powers up the brain. We need to exercise for many, many reasons, psychologically and physically. All of those three things, really, by doing them, you don't have to spend hours in the gym. You don't have to spend hours meditating. You don't have to. Everyone's heard most likely of the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. You know, I'm not suggesting that you be perfect 100% of the time. That's not humanly possible. It's probably not even healthy, to be honest. 80-20 is what I aim for in all of those three things: eating, moving, and thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're human, you know. We should have, you know, the ability to not be as rigid as people, you know, because I've been a chiropractor and a peak performance coach for many, many years. People often assume that I never do anything wrong in terms of health. It's an incorrect assumption. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have the odd drink, and if I didn't occasionally eat a biscuit or a cake or something like that. We've got to be real, you know, be realistic, but don't be silly about how you're eating, moving, and thinking.
Yeah. So is this one of the reasons why when people binge on something like Netflix and you find yourself on the couch just watching Netflix until Netflix goes, "Are you sure you're still watching?" You feel so awful and tired, even though you've done absolutely nothing for that very reason.
Correct. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can drag yourself off the couch there and go for a walk or go for a run or do some sort of movement, you'll notice your energy. Typically, all other things being equal, your energy is going to go up, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, movement is super important for many reasons.
Yeah. And with regards to your helping people, who's your kind of ideal client?
At the moment, with the burnout, I'm focusing on male entrepreneurs, just because I've niched it down to that at the moment. Because it's the age bracket that I'm in, I work specifically with 30 to 50-year-old male entrepreneurs. In the future, I will most likely broaden that niche, but that's where to include females as well, because, you know, women suffer with burnout as well. At this point in where I am right now, though, it's predominantly males that I work with in terms of helping them with burnout.
Yeah, and you mentioned yourself, you kind of, when it was all building up, it was very insidious, and you didn't twig for quite a long time, and it took something quite life-threatening to prompt you to delve a bit further into it. So what are the signs that people should be on the lookout for? Because if it's insidious, they may not kind of be aware of it.
Yeah, it's a good question. So one of the telltale signs is feeling really tired in the afternoon. You might be reaching for something sweet or a coffee or some other caffeinated drink or soft drinks to try and give you that artificial boost in energy. And you know, a lot of people most likely have it in a mild form, but they might put it down to, well, I'm over 40 now, or I'm over 50. It's to be expected. You know, in chiropractic, people often say things like, chiropractic clients, oh yeah, I do get headaches, but no more common than normal. And I'm like, well, to get a headache is not normal. Might be common, it's not normal. So when someone who's like 30, 40, 50 years of age, they're expecting to be knackered because they're now over 40 or over 50. If you're looking after yourself, that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
And granted, in today's fast-paced world, it's easy to take your eye off the ball, as I know from experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, things can slide pretty quick.
Yeah.
Even though it's insidious, it can still happen quick.
And like you mentioned, the kind of insidious gain of weight where you sort of you put your trousers on one morning, you're like, who's shrunk my pants? So unexpected, well, not unexpected, but that steady increase of weight gain and suddenly, and then not being able to lose it. And perhaps if people think about what they do in their day-to-day life, if they're not finding the time for exercising and stuff like that, they're all kind of indicators that something is a bit off. These are kind of symptoms that happen, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember being horrified that trousers were real and underwear. They must have shrunk in the dryer. Do you know, when you were talking about that, you know, people letting exercise go, I forget who said the quote, but it was, the pain of discipline is far less than the pain of regret.
Yeah.
And it's very, very easy to lose your discipline in stuff. As I think most people have, you know, they might have a a resolution or a new goal to lose weight or to whatever the goal is, and then they lose the discipline, they slip off and they let it go. Despite that, though, discipline might feel hard, but regret, when we all get to the latter stages of our life, if we have regrets, then that's going to be super disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So discipline can help prevent later regret.
Yeah. So what kind of successes have you seen with people that you've worked with?
Oh, all sorts. I mean, I've worked with business owners before who there's a few guys who ran trading companies. One guy I remember, he was running on adrenaline, which is very common in the Western world anyway. And he was talking about how many coffees he used to drink each day and how he used to get a really good buzz off it. And he came to me and he was getting married 6 months later, and he said to me, I want to get in the best shape of my life for my wedding photos. I'm like, okay, what else do you want to achieve? And what are you doing currently? And he was fairly fit already. He just wanted to be ripped.
It's not just women who want to look good for the wedding photos.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess both the husband and the wife are going to want to look good, aren't they? But, you know, it was him I was working with.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about how much coffee, I'm talking like strong coffees, like 8 to 10 coffees a day. And I'm like, how are you not burnt out? The coffee was keeping him going. So we worked together to change a lot of his daily habits. His mindset was pretty good. That was pretty strong, but his exercise and nutrition was pretty weak. So we worked together to make some changes in his lifestyle habits, how he was eating, Made a few tweaks to how he was moving with regards to his exercise. And also I got him to start drinking more water. Okay, because he was drinking very, very little water. And we got him to cut down his coffees. I didn't get him down lower than 1 coffee a day, but to go from 10 coffees a day to 1 coffee, massive achievement really. And he noticed a massive boost of energy between the drinking more water and changing up his nutrition. And I got him to start doing juicing and smoothies. All of the above were game changers for him. I remember he wrote me a testimonial after his wedding, thanking me how he did get in the best shape of his life, and he couldn't have done it without the work that we did together. That's just one of many, many testimonials I've had over the years.
Yeah, that's awesome, because especially you're saying you work with business owners. I think what business owners and entrepreneurs have to bear in mind that if they burn out, if they allow themselves to burn out, then their business is going to really suffer, and they're going to be losing money hand over fist.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really key to catch it almost before it starts, so you can prevent it from starting in the first place. But if you are in that stage already, taking some action to bringing yourself back to a much better state.
For sure, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned symptoms to look out for before, and mild anxiety is one of them.
Okay.
I know it's pretty prevalent in the Western world now because of the high level of stress, and just it's a 24/7 always switched on mindset and lifestyle now, isn't it? So
yeah,
anxiety is more prevalent, and that's definitely part of it. Craving sweet things, sugary things, maybe not sleeping very well, like, interrupted sleep, and tiredness I mentioned before as well. So there's a few things to look out for there.
Yeah, and I think the stress and anxiety is an important thing to raise, because as you know, when we're in high levels of stress and our body is creating cortisol, one of the stress hormones, after 7 minutes of that, we lose about 50% cognitive function. So our intellect goes down by 50% after just 7 minutes, which is massive. And if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, that's not a good state to be in.
So true, isn't it? Like, there's an old phrase, isn't there? When emotion goes up, intelligence goes down.
Yeah.
We've been in a situation before, haven't we? Whether it's in a heated debate or argument with somebody, whether it's like at home or work or something, we've all been in a position where 10 seconds after saying it, we really regret something that we've just said something really silly, or maybe even, something you might have insulted somebody or something. You didn't mean to say it, but the emotion had gone up, intelligence had gone down.
Yeah.
And that's stress does that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about the fact your mum gave you this book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, when you were very young, and that kind of sort of inspired you to take the entrepreneurial path. If you could recommend only one book for someone to read, what would it be and why?
Do you mean apart from mine?
Obviously. Shameless plug, apart from yours.
Yeah, I mean, because I work in the field of health, there's business development and personal development are both very, very important to me. And I've read hundreds, if not thousands, of books now. Personal development has been very, very close to my heart since I was about 12, 13. But the book that I want to recommend now is by one of my mentors. It's called The Wellness and Prevention Paradigm, and that's written by Dr. James Chestnut. He's been one of my inspirations and mentors. He's a chiropractor as well. He goes around the world teaching chiropractors and other practitioners about how to help clients implement the wellness lifestyle. And James was largely the inspiration for me to teach the wellness model to people, and part of that led me to be inspired to want to write a book as well. So that's a great book, and that teaches how we're supposed to live, how our ancestors lived, how they ate, moved, and thought on a daily basis. And, you know, the human gene hasn't changed really at all in 20 to 40,000 years. Our environment's changed dramatically though. And what James talks about in that book is how, because the human species, the genes have barely changed at all, but the environment's changed. We're struggling now with health issues the world over. You know, the health of the world's population now is worse than it's ever been, despite one of the countries being the US that spends the most on medications and hospital stuff, you know, allopathic medicine. Yet they're at the bottom of in the tables of the healthiest countries on the planet. So what's happening today? The health model of allopathic medicine, they've had their chance. You know, it's been around for ages. Drugs and surgery, medications. People are ready for something different now. People are much more inclined to want to find out a bit more about health and stop taking the drugs and the medications and having surgeries and try and find a healthy, natural alternative. That's largely what that book of Dr. James Chestnut talks about.
Yeah, because we kind of got out of this mindset of realizing that when things go wrong, it's a symptom. Like you mentioned headaches earlier, and I'd get headaches, but no more than normal. And actually, a headache isn't normal. But because we now, particularly in the Western world, we have all this access to pills and drugs that, you know, give us instant relief, we tend to just go for that without thinking, which at the end of the day is just masking the symptom rather than dealing with the reason for the symptom. Would you say that's correct?
Absolutely spot on. Yeah, people are very much looking for a quick fix. With chiropractic clients and workshops and stuff, I'll often say, right, if you imagine you're assuming those people that drive a car, even if they don't, they'll get the analogy. Imagine you're driving your car down the street and the oil light starts flashing. You've got two options really. You can A, put a plaster over that light and hope it sorts itself out, or B, give your mechanic a ring and go and get your car checked. Which one would be sensible? And inevitably they all say mechanic. Why is that? Because putting a plaster over the oil light is looking at a symptom. The symptom's hidden, but it hasn't solved the problem. But the mechanic will find out what's causing the oil light to start to flash, get to the root cause and fix it. That's what chiropractic is all about, getting to the root cause.
Yeah. And people, I think, do tend to put their health at the back of the queue. When you feel healthy, it's very easy to think, oh, I'm healthy. I can focus on this other stuff. And the health aspect just gets pushed back and back and back until it's suddenly a burning priority, at which point it's usually a bit too late.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. It's been said before that most people spend their health trying to get wealth, and then in the latter part of their lives, they spend their wealth trying to get back their health.
Yeah.
Now, the reality is if people just invested in their health just a little bit throughout their whole life, maybe 2 to 5% of their income on an ongoing basis, they wouldn't be spending all their wealth trying to find their health. And as you said a minute ago correctly, it's often too late.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, often the first symptom of a heart attack is the fact that you're dead.
Heart attack and death.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, first symptom of heart disease, or most common first symptom of heart disease is a heart attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people survive, some people don't.
So getting off, we're going down. What are your plans for the rest of the year? Because how have you been impacted by everything that's been going on?
It's a good question. So in the chiropractic practice, so I still run. I've taken a step back for a short while to focus on helping entrepreneurs with burnout. The chiropractic practice is absolutely chock-a-block. It's very, very busy. It was always busy anyway, pre all this COVID situation that we've been in for what feels like a lifetime now. I think it's about 4 or 5 months now, isn't it? So pre-COVID, we were busy anyway. When we reopened in May, it's just got busier and busier and busier. So many people have recognized that, you know, people might be working from home and they're not used to it. They're sitting down a lot. A lot of people are still, you know, coming up towards mid-August now, still furloughed from work, so they're not working, but they're getting paid for it, etc. So people's lives have changed dramatically. They're starting to recognize, oh, well, my back's sore, or my neck's sore, or some sort of health issues. And all this, you know, not being able to go outside and not being able to go anywhere near people unless they're in your household, and now the masks and all this kind of thing. People are really starting to suffer with their health, understandably. You know, we're supposed to, as human beings, we're supposed to be able to connect with people, you know, and that requires, that is desired. You know, sometimes you need to give someone a hug, you know, show some affection to your family members and stuff like that. So a lot of these, the restrictions that we've got, we will find in the future the detrimental effect that that has had on society. So that's, you know, a lot of people who've been struggling during the lockdown, and hopefully there won't be another lockdown, but who knows? They talk about a second wave and stuff like that, so who knows what's around the corner. But people have recognized that, you know, during this lockdown, their health has really suffered. So people have been coming in their droves to the chiropractic practice. And also, as well as that, the working with burnout. Again, during the lockdown and stuff, people have really been struggling with their health, and they're recognizing that they need assistance to get back to where they were. So yeah, I see the chiropractic practice growing, and I see the helping entrepreneurs recover from burnout. That's thriving as well. So I'm loving helping lots of people.
Awesome, that's great. So where can people go to find out a little bit more about you if they've got any more questions and want to find out a little bit more about burnout?
Okay, cool. So yeah, you can go to my personal website, which is dannyscahill.com. You can find me on Facebook under the Total Health Transformation is the Facebook page, and you'll be able to find a Facebook page, Dr. Danny Scahill, as well. On my website, there's lots of stuff. There's a free video series that you could have a listen to, and there's other free reports and various other things that you can learn a bit more about how to help yourself if you're wanting some assistance.
Fantastic. So I will put those links in the comments below so people can access them easily. Thank you for that. So I know you were talking about mindset previously. You mentioned your meditation practice. I think you were talking about perhaps doing a little bit of meditation just to end our chat together.
Yeah, that'd be good if that's okay with you. Yeah,
absolutely.
So have a bit of silence just to chill out. I mean, I've been meditating over 10 years now, and when I miss my meditation, I really know about it. So let's close our eyes and have a bit of meditation. So it's a mantra meditation that we're going to do. And usually we're just going to do just 3 to 5 minutes, aren't we? Usually I meditate for 20 minutes and then rest for 10 minutes after. But we're just going to do a few minutes just so you can experience hopefully a little bit of peace and quiet. And don't worry if thoughts come in. The nature of the human mind is you'll never get rid of thoughts. And that is the confusion that a lot of people have with meditation. They often say, oh, I couldn't clear my mind of thoughts. And it's never going to happen. So don't mind yourself if any thoughts come in. They do. Sometimes you might think, oh, what am I having for dinner tonight? Have I done that project? Whatever it is that pops into your mind, just acknowledge it and then let it go and then go back to the mantra.
Okay.
Because it is very common, people beating themselves up when they think thoughts.
Yeah. And do you recommend sitting or lying for this?
I'll definitely sitting, feet flat on the floor. Rest your hands on your lap, either palms to the floor or palms to the ceiling. Don't do it lying down. Most of the time, you'll probably end up asleep, and that defeats the object. Okay, so the meditation mantra. I'm going to give you a mantra that I was given by one of my mum's friends when we were teenagers. And it's a word that means absolutely nothing. And that's the idea. It just gives you something to focus on so you can dive down deep into some nice, peaceful meditation. The word you're going to use is shribbles.
Okay.
If you've got a mantra that you use already, then use that. But if you don't, shribbles. So what you're going to do once we've closed our eyes, I'll say the mantra out loud just a few times just to give you an idea as to how you say it to yourself. But you say it in your own mind, which is why, as I often do, I'll be on the train into London today, actually. I'm going to meditate for most of the journey. It's really, really a thing you can do anywhere.
And who says men can't multitask?
Yeah, whoever says that doesn't know men. Okay, so let's close our eyes. I'm going to bring in the mantra, shribbles. How about like this? Shribbles, 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 shribbles. You'll often feel yourself and hear yourself saying it more quietly and more peacefully in your mind, and that's cool. That's what you're looking for. So are you going to time us, Claire, or should I just come out in a few minutes when it feels like a few minutes?
I can. What do you recommend?
I'd recommend not using an alarm because that jars you out of the meditation. So if you can maybe do a timer, a stopwatch kind of thing, and just
Okay, yeah.
glance at it once we're about three or 4 minutes in, then we can rest for a minute and then come out of it.
Yeah, okay.
Cool. So let's close our eyes and then peacefully and calmly, like you would any other thought, just bring in the mantra very gently in your mind. Enjoy.
Okay, that's coming up for 4 minutes.
Okay. So when you come out of the meditation, you need to rest. So we're going to stop the mantra, keeping our eyes closed, and then we'll just rest for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to open our eyes very slowly at the end of that 2 minutes. I often shield my eyes as I'm doing that, so it's not so bright when I open my eyes.
Okay.
Okay, so let's slowly open our eyes just a crack, just a tiny bit. And if you want, shield your eyes, it makes it a bit less bright. And then we're going to really slowly open our eyes to come back into the room. Okay. Hope everyone felt some peace, some calm, some quiet. And that's how to meditate.
Fantastic. That's been brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been really fascinating.
It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the show.
Absolutely awesome. I appreciate it. Appreciate you. And we hope to have you on again very soon.
Nice one. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Cheers. Take care.
Bye.